Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things magic, flavour design, and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann, and it is now Season 2, Episode 101. That's right, I'm going to blend different seasons and also keep the numbering system the same, because, reasons, I guess. Brand new era for the podcast. Nathan is away on his travels. I mean, he's not, he's still in the country, but he's not doing the show for a while. We decided to use the episode 100 as the opportunity for him to step back. And I also use this opportunity to try a new intro out. I mean, let me know what you think of it. It's a little bit self-indulgent, maybe. I'm kind of going for like a Mark Maron WTF kind of thing, where you have like the main body of the episode where he does this little kind of introspective bit at the beginning. Richard Herring also does it on the Rahula Stupper podcast, if you're from the UK and you're familiar with that. I mean, let me know. If you don't like it, I won't be offended if you hit that skip button. You do you. That's fine. What's going on in Magic at the moment? Well, the reason I'm doing these little intros is because I'm going to be doing interview episodes from now on. And if I'm going to be doing interview episodes, we might miss some stuff. And since I recorded this lovely episode with the magnificent Adam the Gathering almost a month ago now, we've seen some spoilers for Streets of New Capenna. Some really cool, interesting stuff, actually. We got a little bit more information. We already obviously knew it was going to be Chicago and New York gangsters and all that kind of jazz. But now we actually get to see some like production art, and a few cards got spoiled. For example, we got to see a lot of the production art for what I'm guessing are the heads of the 5 families. We got to find out who those 5 families were, and got to see a couple of cards associated with them as well. So, for example, the 5 families that are ruling and battling in the Streets of New Capenna are as follows. You have the Obscura, who are the white, blue, black faction, and they are quoted as being gifted magicians and mystics. Obscura use their powers to deceive and blackmail with distractions, illusions, and hidden mechanisms. You have the Maestros, the blue, black, red, elite assassins and old money vampires who love the finer things in life and are willing to kill to get them. The Riveteers, black, red, green faction, also known as Destruction Workers. Riveteers are rowdy, brute force crime faction with as tough as nail artisans that can break buildings as easily as kneecaps. The Cabaretti, the red, green, white faction. The Cabaretti are party monsters and druids who use ancient magic to sway the opinions of the masses. And finally, the Brokers, the green, white, blue faction. Demonic lawyers who secretly believe a doomsday prophecy of New Capenna's impending failure. Each of these factions obviously also get their own like insignia or logo, which, they've been doing for everything, like Strixhaven and obviously Ravnica and stuff. And they look pretty cool. What I really like about the flavour of some of these is that it doesn't look like any one of them is like the good guy. Like even I'm going to use like words like Bant and Espera because like for want of better phrases, but like the Bant faction, blue, white, green is never necessarily like evil per se, but they're the lawyers, they're the brokers, and these are 5 criminal organizations battling in the streets of this Art Deco city. I don't know if one faction is going to be like the good guy, a little bit like Ravnica, where they're all like morally ambiguous. Looks pretty cool. We also got to see some packaging art for a lot of different characters that are yet to be named. I mean, there are 5 sort of promo shots of legendary looking creatures, each with very distinctive looks. I'm guessing these are the heads of the families. Different creature types as well. Aven are back, Leonin are back, looking decidedly more like cat-like as opposed to lion-like. I'm guessing it's because it's set in a plane or a city based on like US cities. They can't have them looking like tigers and lions and stuff. But I mean, look, if we're gonna have Leonin looking like house cats, chances are we're also at some point going to get hound folk who look like, pugs and Dalmatians and stuff. Is that really what we want? Ask yourself, honestly. I don't know, who knows? We're going to have like what looks like dragons, or at least lizards with wings. I'm going to guess dragons. Demons, vampires, I've already mentioned, sphinxes. There's also a Rox, like a rhino folk in one of the artworks. I mean, it all looks pretty cool. Elspeth is on one of the promo shots, looking really glam and sort of like flapper dapper gear. No Shadow Spear, interestingly. I wonder if we ever found out what happened to that. Theros Death Story. Where did you go? Anyway, what I'm saying is New Capenna looks pretty rad, and I think if we can get over Kamigawa Neon Dynasty as like a setting with sci-fi and cyberpunk and that kind of thing, I think we'll be able to handle an Art Deco set. Looks pretty cool. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. Let's get to the good shit. Here's my chat with Adam. very special guest. You might know him as Adam the Gathering on Twitch and Twitter, but I have with me today Adam Knights. You're right, Adam.
Hello.
How's it going, mate?
Good, dude. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. How was Storm Eunice for you?
Actually, it was not too bad. Like it hit my town fairly hard, but my area is quite built up, so we had a bit of protection from the wind. I was out in the garden chasing patio furniture at one point, but we didn't lose any fence panels or any of that, so we got off quite lightly.
Yeah, right. For anyone who's not European listeners or UK listeners, so this is predominantly for people in the US and Canada. Like Europe is being battered as we speak. So we're recording 20th of Feb. We're being battered by a Storm Eunice, which is like it's like record breaking. Like it was something like 122 miles an hour, winds in some parts of the UK. Like so, it's a big deal for us. I know some parts of the US, like this is just like your every other Thursday is like dealing with storms and stuff. But for us, this is like a big thing. I had a tree crash into the back of my garden, so I live in a top 4 flat of terraced houses, and like a house 3 doors down has this huge tree, and then we just felt a whoomph come crashing down through our house, like me and Holly, and we were like, "What the fuck was that?" We looked at the back of our garden. This tree was stretched across 3 like back gardens completely. Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I was then out later that day because I went to work because like theatre doesn't stop apparently.
Yeah.
So and I was like battling against it. But yeah, all right, good to know that using yours is safe. That's cool.
Yeah, we didn't have any trees. We did have a croc with a random pink croc in our garden.
I got someone messaged me. They said, "Oh, I've had a bit of a dramatic one with Storm Eunice." I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" And they went, "Oh, a wall fell down outside my flat." I was like, "Okay." And then they sent me a picture, and the wall was like 3 foot high, and it was just a bit of rubble on the floor. I was like, "What the hell are you talking about, man?" Yeah, whatever. Okay, cool. Well, we're not here to talk about weather scenarios, although that is predominantly what we do with European guests. Right. We had Wayne Reynolds on, the artist Wayne Reynolds, and immediately we were just talking about weather for like 10 minutes.
It's so British, isn't it? Just to be like, we'll just talk about the weather first and then get on with the conversation.
Yeah. Cool. We're here to talk about Magic the Gathering. Because that's what we do. That's what we're here for. So like me and you had a bit of a chat before we hit record, just about sort of what's going on. So as those of you who listen to the show regularly know by now, Nathan's off on his travels. He's not necessarily with the podcast as much. So I want to talk to other Magic people, and I also want to talk to people who aren't quite as fucking insufferable about Flavour and Vorthos stuff as we are. Because I love being a Vorthos. I love Magic the Gathering predominantly for the storylines and shit. But I also want to talk to people who like actually play the game. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think there's lots of people, like you were saying yourself, that there are so many Magic players who constantly play, especially as yourself. Like you're a Twitch streamer, like you play on Magic Arena, you also host Commander Nights as well. Like you play so much.
Yeah.
But then you don't actually get to talk about it.
Yeah, man. It's like every bit of content that I'm doing or involved with is always 99% gameplay. I think this is the first time I've actually got to sit down and have a chat about things that we enjoy in Magic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, like for those people that don't necessarily aren't as familiar with your content, because you've been the rising star over the past couple of years in like UK. I mean, the UK is exploding everywhere. Like there are so many cool creators, and there always have been. You've always had like your Christian Gregory's and your Scott Cullens and whatever else, but there's been like a lot of like different creators popping up and doing their thing. So for people who are listening that might not necessarily be as familiar with your stuff, like where are you? Where can you be found?
Yeah, I'm on Twitch as Adam the Gathering. I'm also on Twitter as Adam the Gathering, but it's too long a name, so it's missing the G on the end, which is the most infuriating thing for me.
Well, it's very British. Again, it's English. It's Magic the Gathering. Adam the Gathering.
Yeah, I stream Arena Drafts on Mondays. I do Commander on Wednesdays. It's like Commander with a twist, though, where chat get involved with their channel points and they can
I love that.
Give players treasures, tutor cards, destroy permanents. It gets a bit chaotic and it's always good fun.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't streamed Commander in quite a while, just through like sort of scheduling things. But when I was, especially over lockdowns, I was doing a lot more. I think I was in a game with Mr. Bevers and Total, and was it awesome. Zuby? Was it Zuby's stream? It was either Total or Zuby's stream, and it was just chat was getting involved, and I was. Like, obviously fun. I love playing with my friends and being on Twitch. But at the same time, I was like, don't you fuck me over chat. I'm my head. Get out of the way. Like, infuriating. But yeah, good fun at the same time.
Yeah, it's always like that as well. Chat tend to have a sort of hatred, not hatred, but a vendetta towards the host. So every time I have guests on, it's always like, yeah, I'm just going to make Adam skip a turn. It's like, come on, I'm already down.
Yeah, I bet Total loves that because he always gets
Yeah.
blown out on his own stream by
He
guests
does,
coming in.
yeah.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I mean, well, there we go then. Like, so you've got the kind of two sides, broadly speaking, of the coin. I mean, we talk about, Nathan and I, a lot on the show about how formats. There used to be this idea that formats in Magic, like standard, modern, commander, whatever, were the battle lines of where you could be flavorful or not flavorful in your decks.
Right.
Like, however true that was at certain points. But I think because the game as a whole has gotten so rich in the flavor and the lore, just per card, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just, it doesn't matter necessarily the formats that you play. But because you play Arena, which is, obviously a lot of the constructed formats and the limited formats, and then you also are a big, like, commander player, you have these kind of two different sides to like your play where you can afford to be a lot more flavorful or not so much. Like, do you as a player, how much do you think you engage with that side of the game in your gameplay? A lot or not at all?
It's like you said, it's a bit of a two-sided coin. With Arena, it's because that's very much like it's strategy based. You're trying to win, you're trying to climb the ladder sort of thing. So you don't really think about too much about the sort of flavor side of things. But because of having that aspect of my gameplay, it allows me to be much more flavorful in like my commander builds. So that's why I primarily love commander, is just because of the amount of uniqueness you can put into a deck. You can take a commander and you can do something completely original with it and go down the shrines route, or like I built a mercenary tribal deck not that long ago, and it's just like no one plays those cards. They're all 25 cents, and it's just like, but it's fun and it's great, and it makes like a little bit of a story when you're playing.
That's really cool. Like, it's weird. I think people who might listen to the show more often might sort of know me as a bit of actually a fake Vorthos, because I actually don't have that many like super flavor based decks. I think I don't have that many decks, period. I was watching a VOD of yours. It might have been your last Commander game. I was watching it this morning. And you said you had like 24 decks and then 3 being built, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I've got 25, I think it is now. And then I've got just piles of cards just on my desk of like decks that I'm building at the moment, because I love building stuff, and it's like I'm doing a thing on the Twitch channel at the moment where I'm trying to play a new deck every week for the year. So far doing okay because I've got the 25 to choose from, but it's going to get to a point where I'm just going to start sort of like tearing them apart, building new commanders each week, and sort of going from there.
See, I think that's my problem. That I'm realizing this is my problem. So I have 10 deck boxes. So I use the this isn't sponsored, by the way, because everyone would get sponsored. I use Ultra Pro Ultra well, I'm not sponsored, I can't say the fucking name. Ultra Pro flip alcove boxes. Nice. But like the more recent ones where it's like the larger flap at the front.
Yeah.
So I have 10 of those because I'm a creature of habit. So I've got all the like different colors. I think I've got a Selesnya one as well when they did the guilds because they were fucking cool. And for me, I'm like, that is my lot. I have 10 boxes, and if I can fill each one with a commander deck, and if I want to build a new commander deck, it has to go in one of those boxes, right?
That's a good idea.
At the moment, I limited myself. I limited myself when I got to 6, and then I did it again with 8, and then I got 10, and I think, no, that's it now, definitely. 2 of those boxes are empty, so I've only got 8 decks, and I hate 2 of them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But the problem is, the reason this is my biggest problem is because I think maybe I'm getting too hung up on how much like I connect with the card and like the commander. If I'm looking like I need a Simic commander, and I look at all the Simic commanders, and they're just all for me, they don't engage with me like narratively, or I just think, oh, it's just another Simic deck or whatever. Like the meme is about like blue green at the moment. Yeah, it stops me from building decks a lot of the time. Like I have to really click with either the mechanic or the commander itself.
Right. Yeah.
So that, I think, even though my individual decks aren't, maybe a lot of them are like very narratively or like flavorful or whatever, I think I have to have that level of like immersion with it. But it does stop me from playing the game because I get sick of my own decks or like just building new shit. Like we didn't get a Simic legend in Kamigawa, and that really bummed me out because everything else I was like, well, I've already got all this stuff. Although Greasefang, the vehicles, the black-white vehicles, does interest me. But
that card's really cool. It's really like it's causing some mad issues in Historic already, with like coming down turn 3 and then dumping out a like Parhelion and just like.
I mean that's the dream, right? Like I love that idea, and just good. And that might make me break my sort of, I think a lot of Commander players have this where they only want one of each color pair or each color trio or whatever. So I've already got my Karlov deck, which is like my baby deck.
Nice.
But I don't know if I ever want to. I think I might do another Orzhov deck. I've got all my tricolors are fucking Orzhov as well, so I don't know why I'm whinging about it.
It's fine to be that, though. If you find the color, like the guild that aligns with you, build decks in those colors. If you know you enjoy it, then you know you're gonna have a good time.
I mean, what colors are your sort of big ones to play?
Well, I've always considered myself kind of Izzet. I love the spell slingy aggro. Like, let's just try and do a load of damage. Like, I've got a Niv Mizzet Parent deck, which I absolutely love.
Absolute monster.
One of the first ones I built. It's great. It's so much fun. But I like variety. I think that's why I've got so many, because I find it hard to like stick with one deck and play it repetitively. I really like the options. So like every week when it's Friday Night Magic with my friends, it's like I'll just grab 6 random boxes off the shelf and go and play some stuff. I'm known for the Kenrith deck though, so which is 5 colors, and I think like that's where the variety comes in, because that deck will play different every single time, and it's
all right. Okay, with this, I'm finding out a lot about myself, man. You're like a weird, like shadow, like version of like weird mirror of like what could be. Because I play a Kenrith deck, but I 5 color, brilliant. Kenrith can do all the shit, and what do? I just build a +1/+1 counters deck, because to me he's the perfect 1/1 counter commander. Do you know what I mean?
Kenrith does everything.
So heavy. I'm so heavy on that one theme. All right, cool.
That's the way to be. That's the way to be though. I think that's why I love that card so much, because it just facilitates whatever your style of Magic is. You can build around it. That's what makes a good commander, I think.
That's so cool. I mean, all right, yeah, that's really healthy. I like that. That's making me depressed about my own building. I need to lighten up. I just need to lighten up and
You'll
just build
fine.
some fucking decks.
Remember, whatever you build, you can take apart. So.
Oh, yeah, I know. I have this like that way with lands, man. I keep thinking I'd love to build this deck or that deck, but I don't have the land base. It's like, what are you talking about? You're such a fool. You have every land base you ever need. Just take the effort to swap them between boxes. Like, what is wrong? You have every land. It's ridiculous. Yeah. All right, okay. I recently built Tovalar Werewolves. That one really did click with me. That was the last one which hit on all cylinders for me, because I needed a Gruul deck. I wanted a tribal deck. Like, never built I built Tribal Pirates, was my second ever Commander deck, because I've been playing Magic since Return to Ravnica, but I haven't played Commander since I only started playing Commander around the time Ixalan was coming up. I think Nathan was playing it for about half a year before, and I was always like, "What's this fucking weird format you're playing, mate?" And obviously now it's like my obsession. So I think I got a Daxos Black-White again. It was a Daxos, the Black-White Daxos Commander Precom.
Cool.
The Returned, that's it. And then I built Ruhan the Fomori, which I've recently rebuilt, because that commander's awesome. And then I built Grixis Pirates with Beckett Brass, and I was like, "This is awesome, tribal, love it." And it sucked. That commander sucks for Pirates, because Pirates at the time, I don't know. How long have you been? Do you remember Ixalan, like when it first came out?
I wasn't playing when Ixalan was about, but I'm familiar a lot with a lot of the cards.
Pirates was like this big thing, because Pirates was like a tribe that has always existed in Magic, weirdly. Like, it's like Minotaurs have always existed. Like, there's always little niche cards from like really early Magic where you're like, they were doing one of like a certain creature type. So Pirates have always existed, but people have always wanted to do pirate shit. And then Ixalan was like the big, this is going to be your pirate thing. And it was in 3 colors, like it was nuts. And like people were going absolutely mental for it. And I think in like certain like standard limited formats, like a lot of the synergies were really popping off. Obviously Black-White Vampires was just a slam dunk as well. But so I built the Commander deck with Beckett Brass. And this was before they were doing Commander decks for every set. So like if you wanted to do an Ixalan deck, you had to use the Legends in the set. And I had all of the pirates. Some of them individually were absolutely amazing. I splashed out on like quite a good like mana base. Like Man of Confluence at the time was like a 17 quid card, which for me was like big top tier. So I splashed out of that in my LGS, and I put it all together, and it just didn't do the thing. And like Beckett Brass is an incredibly flavorful commander. Like 3 pirates attack, they hit, and then you get to like raid your opponent's shit. Like that's piratey as fuck. So I was always a bit disappointed with tribal decks. And then Tovalar came out for Werewolves, because Werewolves have always sucked, and that's my favorite tribe. And I was a bit unhappy with the way that like the night and day cycle worked with the older werewolves and stuff. And I put it together a bit begrudgingly, because I was like, I've got to build it, because I've been talking about werewolves on this podcast for 2 years. I can't not build this deck. I did it, and I played it, and it's amazing. Like,
nice.
And it's purely down because like the mechanics do work, which is a big help, but just the joy of having all your werewolves flip and just doing a werewolf thing is just, it was just there for me, and like all my worries about it and all my sort of, and then older cards like the Ulrich of the Kralin Horde, which was the like werewolf commander people used to use and wasn't shit, like that's now a joy to play because it has the right deck and everything. So yeah, like tribe is, I might build more tribal decks.
Tribal decks is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I mean that brings me on to one of the topics I want to talk to you about today, your favorite tribe, which is knights. Yeah, tell me about knights. Why the hell do you like knights? They're rubbish, aren't they?
They don't get enough representation.
What?
They're not getting enough love.
They have knights everywhere. Knights are like one of the most things ever. Yeah, what's your deal with knights?
So, it's not really known to many people, but my surname is Knights. So like having a creature type that represents your family heritage is always a plus, an easy thing to get into. But yeah, I got into Knights because of the name and sort of fell in love with what they actually do and how they play.
Okay, so you actually like them as like game pieces then?
I do, yeah. I love Knights.
You could just stop there. You could be like, my name's Knights, I like Knights, bish bash bosh done.
Yeah,
like,
the end.
Yeah. What is it about the way that they play?
I think it's like I like the way. Well, I like the versatility of some of the Knights cards. They don't. A lot of people sort of think it's just a tribe that just does +1/+1 for other Knights kind of thing. But it's sort of they are quite versatile. You have cards that you've got Knight cards that will go and grab your planes if your opponent has more lands than you. So and it's like so that they're doing stuff. But then they also. I love equipment. I love the swords. I love Ember Cleave is like one of my favorite cards. So the flavor of
you can tell you play Arena, man. You can tell you've like played Standard and shit before.
just swinging in with a load of Knights and like giving them big swords, and I love the flavor of it.
Do you know what? I've not considered that. That's really opened my eyes because I knew that you were going to pick Knights because we spoke about it. Yeah. Because despite what many listeners might think, there is actually a little bit of prep that goes into these episodes. It goes out the window almost instantly. But I was like, okay, cool, Knights. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about them because they're just one of those forever tribes. Like
exactly, yeah.
And in my head, that sort of makes them less flavorful because throughout the many different design philosophies of the game, throughout the years of like making things almost too flavorful so they were unplayable, like original Kamigawa, for example, or like people just not giving a shit. It's a core set, whatever. Just put in a 2/2 for 2 with first strike and it's white. Fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Knights has always been that tribe. But you talking about, swords, stalwart, like, staples. Like, that makes so much sense. You are restricted, though, in your colours. Like, they are in all colours.
Yeah.
But the good ones are, like, predominantly white, no?
Yeah, there's majority white. I think it's something ridiculous, like, out of all the Knights, it's like something like 50% of them are white, and then the rest, the other 4 colours make up the rest. But, I think I play Mardu Knights. I think that's the strongest trio of colours for them.
Sure. You play what's her face, the Brawl Commander?
I don't. I play Queen Marquesa.
My man, I'm a Marquesa player too.
Yes.
We just play the same decks? I mean, you've got like 1,000 decks, so like it's probably like all right. Queen Marquesa, nice and flavorful. She's a queen. She makes assassins though.
Yeah, she makes assassins, and the funny part is I have like all the tokens for the Knights, but I don't have the assassins token. So I have
that assassin token is rare as shit.
Right?
I use I've got a black Jack of Spades, so I've just got a playing card with Death Touch and 1/1 like scribbled on it. Like that's my token for that.
I have a regular assassin from War of the Spark, and then I've crossed out the text on it, and I've just written haste.
Sharpie's like, I mean, everyone's going nuts for proxies because there are some really good proxy artists out there these days, and obviously things like Orpheomancer finally got the fucking snake token out of that, like Mono Collection Black. But take a Sharpie, man. Just get a Sharpie. Take your favorite token, get a Sharpie, and write whatever the fuck you want on it. Like,
they're just tokens.
They're just tokens. But I mean, tokens are a whole like world of their own that I think are really unrepresented. But yeah, all right, cool. Queen Marquesa Knights.
Yeah, that's so really like cool. there's the it's like the whole build of the deck is there's the Queen and her army. The army's there to protect her. You're trying to be the monarch and protect the monarchy. It's good flavor, I think.
That is incredible flavor. Like, do you know much about Marquesa as a character? Like,
not too much, to be honest.
No, she's pretty niche. She's from Conspiracy and Conspiracy 2, right? And yeah, I mean, we do actually have a YouTube channel, like I did the flavoring, and one of the small little series of videos I did about two of them are well out of date now because of fucking Innistrad, because I did characters from Innistrad, but one of them I did a little short history on Queen Marquesa. Basically, just an aristocrat that kind of worked their way up, and then as soon as they're at the top, became like a despot. like immediately like kicked out all the old things and has
Love
like
it.
their militia of knights.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the characters from Conspiracy are all the knights, or all the kind of like sort of like ground level like rebellion sort of characters kind of thing. So Marchesa is definitely like the evil presence at the top, who's like, you know, very Game of Thronesy. So the fact that yours is all like her like little militia of knights trying to protect her is bang on.
It's
Without
really
even
good fun.
necessarily. Yeah. Do you use a lot of the black and white like Knights of the Black Rose cards, like some of the Conspiracy Knights? Do you think?
Yes, yeah. There's a knight. What is it called? Knight of the Black Rose that makes you the monarch, and then it's not 100% knights in the card. There are other creatures that are making you the monarch just to take advantage of that. It's a lot. To be fair, it's a lot of Throne of Eldraine knights, because when that set
I was going
to
ask you, how did you feel then about Throne of Eldraine? If you're like
so
a big Knights
happy,
guy?
yeah, loved it. That's what made me build the deck, because then I had access to like all of the art style on those cards as well. Is what sold it to me.
That little run. So I think there's like people have like their own kind of barometers for like what eras of Magic are kind of coming when and where. For me, I think Eldraine coming off the back of the end of War of the Spark and that kind of like little sort of section of Magic, both narratively and as like game design. Strixhaven was really like the first of this new kind of wave of Magic philosophy, and also for things like the new card frames and things like secret layer integration and all this kind of stuff. So Strixhaven was weirdly divisive, both as like in play, because obviously it warped every fucking format it touched. Like, you know, even thank God it's out of rotation standard. I don't even give a shit about standard. All my standard, like, you know, player like Magic like contemporaries, like I feel for you, man, because that was miserable for some of those cards.
Like some of the Eldraine cards, like what's the Questing Beast, like that caused so many
Questing Beast, or like even
people.
stupid ones like the Red Giant, like which just kind of
with a stomp
how was that
attached
the
to
card? Ember Cleaver's another one, but like the art style and the kind of going back to like a more kind of traditional fantasy setting, albeit I was about to call it high fantasy, but it is obviously that it was based more on like Germanic and Arthurian legend, like UK lore. Like
very,
for us, like
fairy tale, right?
Yeah, but like because of us, like us Englishmen or us like UK like people, like obviously that was our set. Do you know what I mean? For especially at least the realms half of it. So it was kind of a cool one, but it was so divisive. Like some people were like, "Oh no, I don't like this fairy tale shit," or like it's just too wistful. And I was like, "How can you? This is Magic the Gathering. Like, what are you talking about?
I know.
Like, this is wild."
And that was one of my favorite sets in terms of like what they were doing with the cards. Like you said, like it was a good set for us. And even with like to go off on a tangent, like some of the little things that people missed, but you like Oathsworn Knight, being comes in with 4 counters, and when it takes damage, it loses 1 as that sort of Monty Python, but a scratch kind of meme. I love the little inside jokes like that. So
see, it's interesting, right? So I personally have like a bit of my tolerance for that shit is so tiny, like this little box, and then outside of it I'm like, no, fuck it, it's ruined Magic. So I loved Oathsworn Knight, although a lot of people, again, that was a card that some people picked up and were like, oh no, this is Magic's a joke now, as if do you know much about Ice Age as a set?
I don't.
Like a whole set. After we stop recording today, go on Scryfall or whatever, and just look up Ice Age, just that one set, and scroll through the cards and just look at the tonal fucking gulf that Ice Age has. You have some cards that are like the bleakest, darkest like Magic flavor imaginable, and then you have other cards where you're like, I can't believe this isn't an unset. I won't say much more than that, but go have a look at it. But then so you had cards like Oathsworn Knight, but then you had cards like Seven Dwarves, which if I was to get on a soapbox and be like, that card ruined the game, it's fucking Seven Dwarves. If we get any more of that shit, I'm out. I'm selling out. I'm playing Flesh and Blood. I don't care.
There's such a fine line, isn't there? How do you feel about the Turtle Ninja from the new set?
Now, I think that's all okay. And I will say I've softened very much since Eldraine, because I was also one of the guys that was like, how dare they bring Warhammer into the game? And oh my god, they're going to do all these other things. And actually, I've softened quite a bit. Like, I don't care if people are up in arms about it. I completely understand. I was at my local game store day before yesterday,
right,
the 18th. I was picking up some Kamigawa stuff, and Rule Zero in London, if anyone wants to know about it. Nice. And I was overhearing someone talking about Kamigawa, and they were like, oh, now it's just opened up the door for them to do Warhammer, and I don't like it, and I don't know why I don't like it, because I like Mirrodin and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, I see your point, I agree with you, but for me personally, I don't give a shit. So the turtle stuff I think is fine, because they're not it's not literally the turtles, but they've just kind of cheekily gone, oh,
Yeah,
but it's
it's a
not.
nod to.
It's a nod to. Whereas Seven Dwarves is literally fucking Seven
Yeah.
Dwarves. And I'm just like, I know it's its own story, man, but you do know Disney exists, right? Like, you can't just do that. Like, yeah, it
And
was too much.
the card design didn't even make sense as well, because it's a single creature but called Seven Dwarfs, and then you can have other Seven Dwarfs. So is it like, okay, I've now got 14, 21, 28, or have I got 4?
Thank
Like,
you.
what?
Thank you.
Doesn't make any sense.
It would have been, but it would have been. They didn't. It would have been better. I mean, obviously, this I could say this because with hindsight, and I will never be disproved because it will never happen. But it would have been better if they had 7 individual dwarf characters.
Yeah.
That if you Voltroned it, would be like, oh yeah, there's your thing.
Mm.
But no, it's just the same fucking dwarf. Yeah, no, hate it.
Yeah.
But Strixhaven as a whole was cool. All right, man. Well, so yeah, your surname's Knights. And you like Knights. I'm
a simple man, simple pleasures.
Simple man, simple pleasures. But I wanted to see what other surnames had creature types.
Yeah, enlighten me.
So if there are other players out there that's like, oh, that's a good philosophy, I would also like to do the thing. Now, bear in mind, there's every surname under the sun, so I think this is kind of a moot exercise, but whatever, it's my podcast, do what the fuck I want. And and I did start doing this at 1:15 this morning when I got back in from work, and then I fell asleep at like 1:45. So I didn't do this for very long, but there we go. So there are some more obvious ones. If you were to hazard a guess, if you were just out of the top of your head pick some creature types that you think are probably surnames.
So I was trying to think of ones that would be surnames. Imagine that I can imagine someone being called like John Atog.
You're going to be surprised. So obviously there's a really easy one, Archer.
Oh yeah,
Archer, straight off the bat. So a lot of the ones which are like word jobs or vocations. Do you know what I mean? Because especially in like the UK and a lot of sort of Central Europe, surnames for a lot of shall we say people of a certain social class for thousands of years.
Well put.
They didn't have a name, they had a job, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
So you have Archer. Warrior is a surname. So I found this on the surnames database, and I typed in specifically for the UK. So you can be a warrior.
That is a cool surname.
Yeah. Bard. There's a bard out there.
Nice.
Dragon.
Who are these people?
Who are these? I've never met a dragon. Like they're listed. Warlock.
What?
Yeah,
these are incredible.
Yeah. I did. I was like, okay, cool. So those are like all right, fine. Let's go a little bit further afield. Wraith and Shade, which are both creature types.
Okay.
There's someone out there called Danny Shade. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's fucking rad.
If they're not an adult entertainer, then I will eat my hat.
Yeah. Great. Well, there's a children's entertainer called Andy Mann out there. I know because when I was a jobbing actor and I was trying to get on Equity, which is the UK like actors union, I couldn't have Andy Mann because there's some fucking children's entertainers. So,
unbelievable.
Yeah, my name is a joke. The one that I'm the most surprised at and would be like, this would be the most massive cop-out. So like your surname's Knights and you have Knights. And Knights, although they're like a broad creature type, if you're playing Knights, you're doing it for the love of it, right? If someone played this tribe and tried to get away with, oh, this is my surname, I think I'd just flip the table. Sliver is also a surname in the UK. Sliver.
Yeah, you don't play Sliver for like the flavour of it. You play Slivers for slivers.
If Jenny Sliver sits down against me at the next Magic Fest London and goes, "Oh, this is my surname deck," and pops down a Slivers deck, I'm getting out of there. Like, how fucking dare you come at me with that shit? Amazing.
Love that.
So there we go. I mean, anyone listening, if you know any other creature types that are also surnames, please do let me know. And even if you're lying, just come up with the ones that you think should be surnames.
Yeah, what deck would you build based on your name?
What deck would you build? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would say Andy Mann. I mean, it would have to be humans and just all mask characters, or like all male presenting characters, and like cards. It's just boring as shit. So there's no artistry in that, is there?
I suppose with Man, you just build humans.
Just humans. Great. All right then. Cool. Fine.
Excellent flavour.
Yeah. Peak Vorthos content. So like, how do you feel then? So you obviously play on a lot of Twitch and you stream a lot of like Arena specifically. And I know that the Arena has so many problems. from every angle, both with its relationship to the game, to its kind of, its economy within the game. And like, there's a lot of people saying that although the idea of it was obviously the thing, nowadays it's seen not maybe as the crown jewel of Magic the Gathering as I think
Right,
Wizards of the Coast
right.
would want it to be. But my point getting to is that the thing that it does do very well is that it's pumped the idea of narrative and flavor and even just the visual like look of the game in terms of like all the banners that they use and all the key art that they throw in.
Yeah.
Because it's a digital client, they can have like icons that are themed around like Strixhaven and
Mm.
Kamigawa. And then if they do a throwback draft like Ravnica Allegiance, which they do often, like to older sets, suddenly you have all that artwork is in the front of people's minds.
Yeah.
How do you feel playing Arena? Like, do you feel like the flavor of the game does impact more now than it used to? Or do you feel like, especially for Kamigawa, there's so much, like, there's a manga, there's like, they did like an anime like trailer, they've done all this stuff for the game.
Right.
Do you feel like there's been an uptick, or does it not factor into your sort of Arena presence?
I definitely think there is. Like you said, with Arena, like you have your character, you pick a character as your like person. When you play cards, they speak and like animate and stuff. So like you're passively receiving this extra information and extra stuff. Like even when you play the Kamigawa drafts and it puts you, the battleground is themed on that set sort of thing, and it is nice, like all the little extra touches and extra efforts. But like you said, outside of Arena, with things like they're putting out the album, like the soundtrack for
that's wild
for Kamigawa, and it's mad. They've got some really cool people involved, and they're really like branching out into popular culture. I mean, that's a touchy subject with things like the Secret Lairs and stuff, but the way they're using these things to extend the experience of buying and selling cards is great.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, it's interesting. That obviously the characters, the voice lines, which are voiced by like Billy Boyd voices Will Kenrith. That's wild. I mean, the fact that they made the Kenrith Scottish as well is definitely a choice. I think it's a good one because if they were just like posh English people, like it'd be just so boring. Like, but so it's nice to get like, oh no, the UK is more than just like Southern England, but like, it's so that's kind of cool. But like, so Lorelei Weissel-Labrizzi, who is one of the hosts of the Vorthos cast, who's like the biggest sort of like Vorthos podcast out there, along with Jay and Ellie, who is like continuity like consultant for like a lot of the narrative stuff. Like they're a big deal. Lorelei writes a lot of the voice lines for Arena. Nice. And it's just, I always find it interesting whenever they're talking about it because they're one of the diehard, fiery, like Vorthos, like stalwarts, like in the Magic community. But they're working on Magic Arena, which is like seen to be like, the capitalist arm of like, the game where it's like, oh, give us all your money and like play these like formats kind of thing. And it's just even that is just a really interesting sort of dichotomy.
Yeah.
Who's your like favorite avatar on Arena?
I've run Liliana for a long time.
Sure.
Just
why is that?
I just like Liliana as a character. I think she's really cool. I like the graveyard stuff. I like the Queen of the Zombies kind of vibe.
That's a really cool one. Yeah, Liliana's about the only Gatewatch character that I still have time for, I must admit.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I don't know, how do you feel about Chandra?
Oh, I like Chandra. It's funny, I like the Chandra cards more than I like the character.
Oh, interesting.
I have a Bergie mono red deck when I've got like 6 different Chandra Planeswalkers in it because they're just fun.
Sure.
Chandra's cool
because they all do the fucking same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny because as an Izzet player, you'd think I'd be more aligned with things like Chandra and stuff, but it can be a bit, the way they sort of present the character in certain things can be a little bit sort of like cheesy. I guess it comes over as a bit more Americanized to the UK audience.
So what I think the way that I viewed it is it's broad. It has to have broad appeal, and it has to. They've got such a difficult task in those voice lines because some of the characters, like some of the newer ones, for example, like Vivian Reed, who's the Green Archer character, they've been in the game since Ixalan. No, that's a lie. Was it the core set after Ixalan? They've been in the game for about maybe like 3 or 4 years, which is in Magic terms is quite short. Whereas you then have characters like Khan or Tezzeret who've been in the game for like 20 years, and they have to convey these characters and then also update them per the new sets, and they have such a small box that they have to hit. So like Chandra cards, the Chandra avatar, for example, bit cheesy, bit like one note, and I kind of feel that way about Chandra in general, but even more so with the voice lines, because they have to hit that characterization.
Yeah,
Because you've got new people
exactly.
coming into the game and they want to like, well, who the fuck are these avatars? Why should I give a shit? Why can't I just have my own face? So they have to like really hit home with them. So yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, you've mentioned a few times you're a big Is It player. This is interesting. I'm not an Is It player, and I've struggled with playing Is It, especially in Commander, until Strixhaven School for Mages came out.
Okay, yeah.
And Strixhaven, they changed Is It into Prismari.
Yep.
And obviously that set was the big thing that changed up a lot what the colour pairs did and their sort of thoughts and flavour. And Prismari being the performance school of like music and actors and artists. And then they did a bit of performance in Silverquill as well, more like poets and sort of orators, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of two schools. And I've built a Zavai from the Commander Precon. So I got the Commander Precon of Zavai, the Thunder Conductor.
Thunder Conductor, yeah, with the misprint text.
Yeah, Thunder Collector. Yeah, love it. So stupid. Whatever. So I've got two different Commander names. And it's still Spellslinger, but obviously it plays in a slightly different way. But the thing that really drew me to Prismari was the flavour of the fact that it's all performance based. It's all like musicians and artists and actors. And this is something that me and Nathan have always said, and in fact were saying right up until around the time of Strixhaven, and then suddenly all of our like dreams came true. Is like, how would a musician look in Magic? How would a poet look in Magic? Because we've had them for a long time, but they've always
it's like
been
dotted around, and they do random things.
They're dotted around, they do random things, and it's always, because it's high fantasy, someone playing like a lyre or a lute or a piper.
Yeah,
that's it. And you're like, it's all, and then it's like, oh, okay, you get a creature into play because it's like, there's the creature, or it's enticing other creatures over to your side of the battlefield, and it's not really representative of what. That's like the fantasy idea of like what a bard does, right?
Yeah, because it comes from that Dungeons and Dragons background, doesn't it? It's taking the bard class, and making that like they're not trying to get to like modernize with their musical instruments and characters and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Until recently.
And so, like, obviously, like those cards really spoke to me because I've got a theatre and a bit of a music background because I play instruments. So I people know this if they listen to the show. I cut my teeth as an actor musician before I sort of became more of a producer, stage manager, like kind of role in what I do. You yourself have an arts background, don't you? Like,
yeah, well,
what is it that you do?
My career outside of streaming is in the music industry. I've been a professional producer for about 10 years now, working on like pop music and hip hop and R&B and stuff like that.
Amazing. And so, like, this kind of, like, explosion of, I guess, humanities subjects. I don't know how to group them all together, because I can't keep saying actors, poets, musicians, blah, blah, blah.
Creative arts, performing arts? I don't know.
There you go, yeah. Creative and performative arts in Magic as actually represented things that work the way that they do while still functioning in a primarily combative game. Because it's, you're fighting each other. It's about life totals and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like they've really nailed it, and not just performance arts, but things like chef. There's like 2 chef cards out there in the world now that actually make sense. Like, yeah, I love it. Like, I mean, how do you feel about all this? Like, it's got to be big for you, right?
I love it. I love the like the representation of. Obviously, I'm a music fan. Like, music is a huge part of my life. So having that sort of aspect, also being able to take it into a game I enjoy, is excellent. Not with the music thing, I don't find it as well. With the knights, it's very focused. There's plenty of knights. There's like you can build a deck with it. With instruments and music, I wouldn't say that you could go ahead and build a commander deck around that stuff. There's just not enough of it yet. But
tough. Yeah,
I love the way that it is coming into Magic. But like you said, it's a lot of pipers and harps and things like that, and we're slowly. I mean, there's drum cards. There's a few cards like.
Well, this is it. So it's all those instruments that you could feasibly find in high fantasy, right?
Exactly.
But they also we did a bit of an episode on this when Strixhaven came out, and we found that there was maybe like across the 4 or 5 instruments that you generally found in Magic a lot. Like Yisan Wandering Bard is like maybe the archetypal like thing.
Yeah.
Before they also brought in the Bard archetype again for like the Dungeons and Dragons Adventure Forgotten Realms, and they all did maybe one of like 2 to 3 things each. Like they gave you a bit of mana, or they did a cheater creature into play, or entice a thing over to your side of the battlefield. It's like, okay, fine, that fits in with the thing. But I do sort of feel like you can't do a whole commander deck around it. So my Prismari deck with Zavai, I did try to keep that relatively flavorful, and I did try to keep the idea of it as if I was playing, as if I was Zavai, and I was building up through this big crescendo of like this kind of orchestral piece, or like that I was playing like Safai's like sonata or something. So you
Yeah,
you
love that.
start slow and then you build up and then you rise to a crescendo and then you
Mm.
have like refrains coming back in and out and all that kind of stuff. And I do definitely feel that with that deck. So I think the feeling of those cards is definitely there. Like for example, there's a pair of cards in the precom, in the Prismari precom, which is Rousing Refrain and
Right.
Inspiring Refrain.
Yeah.
And it's the 2 suspend cards. So the blue one, you play and you get to draw 2 cards, and then it suspends out and comes back in, and it plays 2 cards. And then the rousing one pumps your mana. So it's a red, like sort of, what do they call those effects? You know the effects.
Yeah.
You get the
Yeah.
mana for that turn, you then it fucks off again, and it comes back. And the
Yeah.
reason I loved it was the artwork. I don't know. Do you know those cards that I'm talking about? Rousing and Inspiring Frame.
I do, but I can't remember the artwork on them.
So the artwork is same artist, and it shows a quartet of musicians. And on the blue one, 2 of them are playing their instruments, and on the red one, the other 2 are playing their instruments. And they're doing this little call and response in the
Nice.
artwork.
That's
and the
excellent flavor.
That's excellent, and the mana values for those cards are staggered. So I think Rousing Refrain is 5 mana and Inspiring Refrain is 6 mana. So you play one and then the other, and then throughout the rest of the game, they're kind of coming in and calling and responding, and it's just like, the mechanics are the same mechanics that we've had in Magic since time, but the way it's presented is just like, oh my god! Like I'm talking about it now, and I was getting really happy about it. And they've brought in all these cards. Like, I mean, are there any cards individually that you think are peak for you with this kind of thing?
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of like on the opposite of what we were saying about the like traditional instruments. The one that stood out to me really recently is in the new Neon Dynasty set. There's Tawashi Song Shaper, which is like the art is they're an artificer, but they're DJing in the
I'm
art.
literally looking at that artwork right now. I was trying to find that card.
I love it. Like I love that they've now stepped it into the modern era of music with the modern style of Kamigawa.
Excellent, that's so funny. It's also the exact card that when I was eavesdropping on a conversation, they went, "Oh, and there's that fucking DJ card. I don't know all about it." And I was like, "What are you talking about? It's amazing."
I know. It's like, come on, if you can have space motorbikes and stuff, you can have a DJ. Like you're not going to still be playing your lyre to the rats on the motorbikes.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh man, I love that. That's really good.
And I also quite like the flavor. I don't know whether this is the intention of it, but the flavor of it is like, it's whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+0, and I like to think that the flavor of that is like playing a record or playing a song. Like every time the DJ is moving on to the next song, the party's getting more hype, it's getting more interesting. Like I like that sort of modern approach to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really, really cool. I mean, we're going to keep seeing it. We're going to keep seeing it because also there's I mean, this is me, maybe a little bit tinfoil hat territory. There's been a lot of larger celebrities, shall we say, people like Post Malone or Joe Manganiello, who they got Matthew Lillard as well, like to do some of the stuff like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. There's a lot more sort of openness with celebrities who are playing Magic the Gathering. Now that Magic has raised as an IP to a level where the content, through people like, like the Command Zone, like obviously they're doing a lot of work and whatever, but the content is now at a high enough standard that I think a lot of celebrities like, oh, I'm not going to be like vilified for like expressing myself now with like these content creators, and it's kind of leveling out a bit. And I feel like the more that happens, the more wizards are going to start thinking, oh shit, like some of our biggest like sort of proponents of this game are artists. Like we should be doing more to like have this represented in our game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of feel like, how many sets is it going to take before like there's going to be a very veiled Post Malone card? Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's going to be like a rapper with like a mic and like, but he's like decked out as like in armor or some shit.
Some character with face tattoos.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to absolutely happen. So like, I think it is only going to get better and better and better. And I sort of do hope they do more planes. Or like if we go back to Kaladesh, for example, which is another technologically advanced plane, there's nothing to stop them having. I mean, they had like the Panharmonicon, which is like a giant like organ essentially. Yeah, like we know they have instruments on that plane, so we're going to go back there and they're going to be doing stuff. Like I think it is only a matter of time.
Yeah, like I think you'll start to see like synthesizers and stuff because like you can mix that into the game, the way the game plays and stuff. I think quite well.
Yeah, and like with the amount of secret layers and reskins of cards, like it's gonna absolutely keep happening. Awesome. Well, like, what other? So, like, I think we're nearing the end of our recording session potentially, but like, I just wanted to ask you, like, what what Flavour in the new year, and I am going to say Flavour because this is a Flavour podcast. Like we've got Streets of New Capenna are next, so that's 1920s New York gangster territory or Chicago gangster. Sorry, Americans. Then we've got Dominaria United and the Brothers War, which I suppose for someone like yourself who maybe isn't as au fait with like older lore, that's going to be either a complete blowout or fucking wild.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the Brothers War as a story with Urza and Mishra?
That's the thing, right? Like familiarity with the characters, sure, because of cars and stuff, but the actual history of it, because of not being around when those things were happening, set-wise and story-wise, it was like when it was announced, it's like, oh, okay, let's have a little look at this, and then I look at what the background of it is, and it interests me that it's now giving me, as a relatively new player in the world of Magic,
sure.
like it's giving me insight into something in the story. So it's like,
oh man,
you are in that detail.
You are in for it. We're all in for it because I mean, without being like, without being like a little bit hipster about it. The stories, I mean, there were comics, there were books, and there was web fiction. There always has been to varying degrees of success. So the lore is out there, but honestly, a lot of it is confusing and contradictory, and kind of hard to find now. So even for like the Vorthoses like myself, who are maybe like over a decade-ish into the game, some of the older stuff is quite hard to come by. So this is very exciting for me because I get to see it kind of with half new eyes and half know what's going on. But the fact that it's a set that's going back in time to tell a story, it's not like progressing the story. Like we already know it, and now it's just been represented is wild. But like in the new year, like what's your hype for like what's coming up?
I see. I think it's hitting. It's all sort of speculation for me at the moment because of obviously not being too familiar with the Brothers War. I'm interested to see how that goes. So I know that like I'm going to enjoy that because I enjoy learning past stories and stuff from Magic. Dominaria, I think, was an excellent set, so Dominaria United will be interesting to me, but like I'm still not sure what direction things will go with that. That's going to be no one is really.
I'm really surprised we're getting two Dominaria sets.
Like as long as it's not football, as long as it's not like Dominaria United versus whatever FC, then we're fine.
Phyrexia FC.
Yeah, although actually that might be quite funny.
That might be all right.
The one I'm most interested in is the 1920s thing, because I think that could go one or two ways. That could either be a big hit or it could be an absolute flop. Because they could go very like they could like the Great Gatsby kind of like thing. I feel like they could go fly too close to the sun and absolutely wreck the set, but we'll have to. It's all speculation for me at the moment. So I'm just interested to see how they play out.
It's funny you mentioned Great Gatsby. Very unrelated. I was talking to someone. Yeah. So there's a Great Gatsby immersive show in London at the moment, and I'm not going to bash the show because a lot of my contemporaries work on that show. So it's and I've been there. It's fun and enjoyable. But as a story for the book, I remember talking to someone the other day being like, "God, I fucking hate that book." So I really hate. It's as a story. It's just.
It's a terrible story.
Terrible story. So yeah, I hope they don't do Gatsby. I mean, it will definitely be like gangsters. There's like Obnixilis, who's like a returning demon character. Obviously, you'll probably know him from War of the Spark, but he's got a whole like history on like Zendikar as well.
Yeah, right.
And to see him, I really hope from New Capenna. I like gangsters and I like sort of Art Deco as much as the next person, but I really want us to focus on a villain as the main story teller. Right, we've had all these, obviously, because that's how stories work. You usually follow the protagonist rather than the antagonist, and even if they're an anti-hero, it's usually because they're misunderstood or like they're grizzled or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Obnixilis is a twat. He's a fucking demon warlord twat who hates everyone and everyone hates him. And I really hope he's the one who we follow throughout that story because he's on all the key art. So yeah,
one of those characters where you should hate them, but you can't help but then be like drawn in and enjoy what their story sort of thing.
Make it unapologetically he's evil, because if it's a story about him being a crime boss on New Capenna, and because it's from the looks of things, from what we know now, by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably know a lot more about it, and these things will either be true or untrue, and we'll probably actually know a lot more about the later sets in the year. But it seems like he's going to be going around like taking the other demon mob bosses out, because there's the key art that we've seen from it is him holding another demon who's in like a suit by the scruff of the neck. So if it is just a battle between a bunch of demon mobsters, like who's upset about that?
Yeah, right. That'd be so sweet. I wonder what they'll do mechanics wise, like what recurring mechanics they'll bring in and what new mechanics they'll do to sort of represent these things flavor wise. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, man. because I mean, mechanics is an interesting one. I suppose like you get more of like a purer form of these mechanics than I do, because I predominantly only play either limited, so like pre-releases, or I'll do a draft every once in a blue moon, but I'm predominantly commander player. Whereas because you play a lot more like constructed formats on things like Arena as well, you see these mechanics really hit the ground like sort of like fully. Like I might put one ninjutsu card in a deck unless I'm playing like Yuriko, whereas you're like building like you will like play four ofs, or you will have like a whole like deck like that's fully on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you'll have it against you 100 times a day. Like, yeah, these. How do you feel about some of the new mechanics coming out? Like, do you like them? Because they're very flavorful. They've really pumped up like what they do.
I think, like you said, with the constructed formats, you like I like the like I love ninjutsu. The mechanics that come out that are flavorful. You tend to see less of that in sort of standard playing and stuff like that. It's the they might not necessarily be the strongest or the most versatile. They just happen to be cool for what the set is. So you do get ones every now and then that come in and pique some interest, but it gets quite stale, I think, in the constructed formats of the same kind of mechanics. Because some are strong and they'll always be strong. So you kind of
they just kind of default.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, really
that is.
I guess
that is the downside of it. Sure, for sure.
That's why I prefer draft. To be fair, I'm much more into everyone being on the level playing field. Everyone gets what you get from the packs, and you get to see a variety. You get to see vehicles. You get to see ninjutsu. Like,
yeah, for sure. I like that. I think I saw someone that we've interacted with quite a lot, like again Christian Gregory. She was saying that I saw a picture of she put up from one of her pre-release packs that she went like 5 color pre-release or something ridiculous.
Nice.
Like, what? No idea what that must have been like to actually play. I'll have to ask her next time I see her. But yeah, absolutely wild.
I've done that once before with War of the Spark. My promo was Niv Mizzet Reborn, and I was like, I've got to build it for a laugh, and I just went 0-3 on the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but had a great time.
I went, my War of the Spark pre-release was utterly shocking. So it was their midnight pre-release, again at Rule Zero, or Magic Madhouse at the time. And I wanted to build a Feather commander deck. Cool. I was like, I needed a Boros. So again, all things, I wanted a Voltron commander, I wanted a Spellslinger commander, which Feather is both. Yeah. I needed Boros, and it had Wayne Reynolds art. And it was a returning older character. So I was like, this is it. This is my first thing. So I'll go to pre-release. And my promo foil was Feather. And I was like, are you shitting me? So I built this, I forced out of my 6 packs or whatever it was, this Feather deck. And yeah, I went 0-3. Constantly getting blown out. I kept getting blown out by that blue-black card, which is it's got Bontu and a Ketra on it. It's like Eternals, Enter the Eternals or something.
Oh yeah. Wait, does it like amasses 4 and does 4?
Every
like
single game, I got absolutely ruined. I was like, okay, all right. And there's me with like I did Feather. I think I pulled off the Feather thing once, where I got to like bounce an instant back to my hand, or like really did thing. But whatever. And then it was Magic Fest London the next day, also in like just like 20 minutes from my house. So yeah, nice. We did the midnight pre-release, and then all weekend was like drafting War of the Spark and shit.
Hell yeah.
It was cool time. Yeah. The last thing, I suppose, I say this last 100 thing. You're getting married in a couple of months.
I'm getting married in a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks. Yeah. Yes, you did say. So you'll be, by the time this episode comes out, you'll be a married man.
I will. In 29 days, there will be another night in the guild.
How did you feel about Crimson Vow as a set, as someone who was preparing for their wedding as the wedding set was coming out?
It was cool. For me, I like both Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt weren't really my thing. I love the night and day thing. I like the werewolves thing more.
Sure.
I found, because of playing primarily drafts on Arena, I found the sets a bit of a hit and miss. Like if someone gets a bomb, you lose to them. Like it was very bomb heavy. But the flavor of the set was really cool. I liked the whole like vampire wedding thing. But like, I've never been much of a vampires fan. I think I've been hurt by Edgar Markov too many times to care.
Yeah, I mean, vampires was one of the first tribes I really, really engaged with, because when me and Nathan used to play kitchen table and just get way too drunk and stoned and play for like 20 hours at a time, like, you know, or like play until like 6 a.m. He had this mono black vampires deck, and I was like, this is the raddest shit. This is what black does, and black is.
Nice.
But yeah, nowadays vampires, I'm just like, I can't build a vampires deck. I really want to build a Rakdos vampires deck, but it's just, when Edgar Markov's out there, what can you do? Like...
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, it's so powerful, and like I think even Gavin admitted that it was a mistake. Like it should, Eminence is just too powerful, sort of thing.
Yeah. Holly's got plays Arabo Roar of the World, which is objectively the worst one out of that pre-con set.
And it's still great.
Slaps. I get smashed by it. It's an equipment deck. It's not even a tribal cats deck. You put like 2 or 3 like decent, because most Leonin are like sort of equipment related or something similar. You put 3 or 4 cats out that are half decent. You stick a behemoth sledge on, and you go, yeah, Eminence, you're dead. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like a Mirri Weatherlight Cat duelist or something. You're like, oh, I can't even attack your back. That's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely slaps. Has Magic featured in your wedding at all, or wedding preparations in any way?
Oh, has it? I don't think it has. It's fair. I think I've been banned from being able to include anything Magic wise. But
so, all right. So Holly proposed to me, and I think this is a story I've probably told 1,000 times. She proposed to me. She got Mr. Shy, who's you might be familiar with them. They are a UK creator. They do a lot of they used to do a lot of Magic alt arts, but they predominantly do like miniature painting now, like painting like minis for like minifigs and things. And they're one of the only people in the UK that was kind of predominantly did like altars. So Holly went down to my LGS and asked Tim Willoughby, who people will know from the Magic commentators team.
Okay,
when they used to do like televised events, because Magic Madhouse that then became Rule Zero he's one of the people that set up that LGS. So before I even went to that LGS, like she was very proactive, and said, "Who can I get to like do a special card for me?" And so Mr. Shy. So she knew a bit about Magic, but she wasn't as heavy into it as she probably is now, or like is knowledgeable. And essentially, she got an altar of I think. She got an altar of a card. I can't remember now because it's completely covered now anyway. But she got to do a paint over of a card of a picture of the 2 of us. So the card is just a painted Magic card of our 2 face. And then she put it over the top of a jumbo card that had like custom mechanics on it. So I think it had like Soul Bond. So like that kind of made sense. And then the flavor text was like relevant to us and blah, blah, blah.
That's really cool.
So she's amazing. We were playing a game of Magic. I remember it was the 5th of November 2018, because that's like, I just fucking remember. And we were like, she was like, "Do you want to play some Magic?" I was like, "You never want to play Magic."
What is that,
on? Anyway, I was like, "Yeah, cool." We're in our pajamas, like, or like our like lazy clothes, like having a coffee and like a sausage sandwich or whatever, and we're playing a game of Magic. And she was sandbagging like really badly. I could tell because she had a bunch of cards in her hand, and she wasn't playing them. And I was getting really pissy. I was like, "Why don't you just play a card? Like, just play a card." What's wrong with you? And she was like, she looked really upset, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll piss her off. Okay, whatever else. Well, she wasn't upset; she was nervous.
Right?
She had this custom card in her hand, and obviously the card back was just a regular Magic card back, but the front was obviously our faces. And so when I'd like gone to the toilet, or whatever, she'd put this card in her grip. I was like, oh, okay. And then she finally tapped some mana and then played this card, and she went, "Will you marry me?" I went, "What? What's going on here?" Like, and I saw this card, I was like, "Holy shit!" And then she, under the table, she got the jumbo card and she put this one on our faces made like the artwork for the jumbo card.
That is awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, wild. She'd been planning it for months. Like Mr. Shy had been like doing all the artwork for it and shit. Like all the people that would become my LGS were like, "Oh, you're the guy that got fucking proposed to and shit like that." So, so that was my Magic integration. I then asked her if we could use the place cards for the tables, if I could get like custom Magic cards printed.
Nice.
And she said no. Yeah. So there we go. So it's probably for the best.
Yeah, that is like extra cool. Like, props to her for having the courage as a woman to propose. Like, that takes a lot of effort and like.
Yeah, man. Like, it's not that regular in the UK at all.
No, I respect that massively. And then to go and do the whole Magic thing is another level. What badass.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good job that Crimson Vow wasn't out a lot sooner. Otherwise, one of us might have been very tempted to get the card wedding ring. Just like, would you want to marry me? How many people over the past 2 months have been proposed to that way in the Magic circle?
That's mate. Yeah. Let us know in the comments below if you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's about all time. I'm not going to keep you for much longer because I think
it's been an absolute pleasure, dude.
You've got a busy day, so I'll let you go. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Again, where can people find you?
You can find me under Adam the Gathering on any platform, primarily Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. Nice one. Yeah. Well, you know where we are, guys. You know us at MT Flavouring on Twitter. You can also send emails to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is @AndyManFace. Nathan's not here to say his one. Nathan's Twitter is @TheFoxAndTheMoon. That's surreal. Okay, cool. Usually we bounce up. We have a whole little thing. It's Dumb. Cool. Well, all that remains for me to say then is thank you so much for listening. Adam, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been an
Thank you.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next time, magic people. Cheers.
Bye.